The WWF, what the world is watching. Turn it on and rip the knob off.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Wrestling Memory Grenade, now at episode 127. As this week on the show, we conclude April WWF TV for 1988 in the World Wrestling Federation. I am your host, Ray Russell, bringing to you, yes, 2 more weeks of WWF goodness for the 1988 project here as we close out the month and we set up next week's Saturday night's main event. But in order to get there, we've got so much to get through this week, guys. Lots of sound bites, lots of new storylines and angles to get to. So we're going to change up the format just a little bit and jump right into things here this week as we head off now to the April 23rd edition of the WWF's Superstars of Wrestling. All right, guys, and away we go. Superstars, April 23rd, tape back March 19th, more than a month old, but that's going to end. We got a new set of tapings coming before we finish up this grenade show. But right now, we are back, taped March 19th, Cape Girardeau, Missouri, at the Show Me Center. It's Vince McMahon, Jesse Ventura on commentary as we head off to the ring to see Jake the Snake Roberts take on Chris Curtis. As Curtis going to try a sneak attack to no avail, Jake shooting him into the corner for a backdrop, but Curtis with a boot to the face, but he's going to miss an elbow drop on the Snake Man. And during the matchup, we get a little more foreshadowing of things to come later in the episode as the announcers, they discuss Ravishing Rick Rude, who will be in action a little bit later on. And no doubt, he'll be looking to pluck another beautiful lady out of the crowd for that rude awakening kiss. But back to the action here, it's Jake Roberts with his patented knee lift, short arm clothesline, and the DDT. Going to score the win on Chris Curtis. Match goes 2 minutes and 4 seconds, and a little post-match fun with Damien, as always, dropped upon the chest of Chris. As we go off now to Update with Lord Alfred Hayes talking about Hulk Hogan and the Nickelodeon's Kids' Choice Awards.
From the pages of the World Wrestling Federation magazine, here's Update.
Hello, everyone. This is Lord Alfred Hayes with this week's Update. There are never enough superlatives to use whenever the name Hulk Hogan is mentioned. Everybody knows and loves the Hulkster. This powerful giant has not only taken the world by storm, but also by his warm and generous heart. His engaging personality has garnered for him accolades from around the world. But perhaps the one he most cherishes is the Nickelodeon's Kids' Choice Award for the favorite male athlete of 1987. The Hulkster was chosen by kids across America over nominees Walter Payton of football fame and basketball's Michael Jordan. Let us look in on the Hulk's acceptance of this award.
Hey, the Hulkster's a very lucky man, you know. We've received a lot of prestigious awards these last 4.5 years together, man. But this Nickelodeon's Kids' Choice Male Athlete Award couldn't come at a better time, you know. This ensures the bond of all of us Hulkamaniacs is going to be stronger than ever, and that Hulkamania is going to run wild. And for all those kids out there that voted for me, man, this is a promise that with all this momentum, the big wheels of Hulkamania rolling, Hulkamania will never let you down.
So there it is, Hulk Hogan named Athlete of the Year for the second annual Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards. And we get his acceptance speech there, beating out the likes of Michael Jordan and Walter Payton. Wow. Old HH, not even on the road right now with the WWF, and still can't seem to make it to Nickelodeon Studios there. In the meantime, you heard him there promising to never let the little Hulkamaniacs down, which he kind of sort of did by not even showing up. Dude. But we're back to the ring now for the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, Bodyguard Virgil, taking on Outback Jack. And hey, how about this? Outback still has entrance music by this point in his career. As an upset DiBiase attacking Outback from the jump, but Jack makes the comeback, dropping Teddy with a big clothesline and a series of big right hands. But Outback runs into a boot in the corner, and DiBiase quickly taking control, showing off his wrestling abilities, even landing a middle rope standing elbow and a trifecta of those awesome DiBiase fist drops. And good bumping here by Outback. They say he wasn't much of a wrestler, but at least he got the bumping part down before he left the company, as it is the $1 Million Dream going to score the win here for DiBiase. Match goes 2 minutes and 6 seconds, and then post-match, Outback going to receive a $100 bill stuffed down his mouth. So down goes the Aussie to Ted DiBiase, and he gets $100 for his troubles. But I also believe this to be Outback's penultimate match here, at least on WWF TV. And we're not going to see him again for about another month-ish on television, but this does indeed mark his final single match on TV here in the company.
No worries, mate. I'm Outback Jack.
Just never worked out for poor old Outback, and I think it's safe to say it was a pastime to cut ties. But look at the bright side, guys. It's going to open up a new spot in the company for the likes of guys like the Big Boss Man. As we continue on with the program, we go off now to the Event Center, as Mean Gene Okerlund going to be talking with the Islanders, manager Bobby Heenan, and the British Bulldogs.
All right, hi again, everybody. Gene Okerlund back in the World Wrestling Federation Event Center. Big news, Ted DiBiase really doing in Outback Jack, that brilliant young star from Australia. As I travel around the country, I run into great fans of the World Wrestling Federation. A lot of them wearing these very attractive hats. Some wear them like this. Some, they come a little unglued and they wear them like this. Got others, they're kind of into the golf baseball trip, and they wear them like this. But one thing I can tell you, they've all got in common is, of course, that tremendous love for the World Wrestling Federation and their great superstars. No love lost between these four men, the British Bulldogs, and the guys that they're going to be facing sooner or later, the Islanders.
You know, we have trouble in tag matches. He wants to start, and he wants to start. And they both want to start. Only one man can start. See, it doesn't matter which Bulldog's in there, because we're going to get rid of both of them once and for all.
You know, Mr. Brain, after all, and after you beat 3 of them, what else the Islanders going to do?
Do it again. It's
We
fun.
just do it again? Okay, you say so. We're going to do it again.
You know something, Bulldogs? Ain't you guys tired of the Islanders beating you up? Ain't you tired of getting slapped around? You look ugly, you're dumb, you're stupid, you don't know anything about wrestling, but the Islanders are number 1 when it comes to the ring. Why don't you just go back to England and tell the Queen, hey, we couldn't get it done. We got our tails kicked.
You know, Islanders, you know, Weasel, we remember when you took Matilda away from the British Bulldogs for a long, long time, Islanders and Heenan. And we never forgave you for that, and we'll never forgive you. But let me tell you something. We told the people that we would get Matilda back, and with all the people's fan mail and everything, we got Matilda back. But let me tell you something. We put this dog through some special training. This is the only world's weasel hunting dog, and she's coming after you, Weasel, and she's coming after you, Islanders, and Matilda's back, and the British Bulldogs back, and the whole family's back right here. And we're coming for you, and we're on your trail, Islanders.
Remember one thing, Weasel. Matilda won't be satisfied until she gets a piece of you, and we won't be able to do nothing about it.
By the way, Bobby Heenan, Weasel, Bobby, I can't say that. Fair warning to you, if this young lady ever gets a hold of you, Matilda, you could be minus what I don't want to say. We're right back after this. Don't go away.
So clearly now using these Event Center segments to promote the WWF merchandise as well. Mean Gene showing off WWF magazines, the Macho Man foam finger, the Duggan foam thumb. And here we have Mean Gene in a baseball cap, the old WWF baseball hat. I actually had one of those once upon a time. Not really sure where that wound up. But it looks like these two teams not done yet. The Islanders and the Bulldogs are going to continue to make the rounds here in both tag team action and 6-man tags on the upcoming house shows. As the program continues, we get another WWF fundraiser commercial, followed by a matchup involving the Outlaw Ron Bass taking on Leaping Lanny Poffo, as Poffo has a poem for us all, putting over the Junkyard Dog and the revenge the dog will get upon the Outlaw. We also hear from JYD in an insert promo here, vowing revenge on Bass. As the match starts off, it's a little back and forth. A drop kick and a flying head scissors by Lanny, even a sunset flip nets him a 2 count, but Poffo tries for a backflip into an arm drag spot, and Bass just doesn't seem to know how to take it properly. Kind of a slow motion arm drag there by Poffo on Bass. You just shouldn't try that with a guy the Outlaw's size. Eventually, though, the Outlaw going to take over and landing his Texas Gourd Buster, his version of the future pedigree, going to give Outlaw Ron Bass the win, 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And we're right back to the Event Center. Mean Gene this time going to talk with the Hitman, Bret Hart, and Bad News Brown.
All right, stay tuned for more exciting World Wrestling Federation action. Hey, what about this Outlaw Ron Bass? Outlaw Ron Bass, sooner or later, you're going to have to get into the ring with the Junkyard Dog. And if it's sooner, I pity you. I pity the fool, as Mr. T would say. You know, let's go back to WrestleMania 4 just to refresh some memories. There were 20 men invited to a very prestigious battle royal. Final 3 men ended up being the Junkyard Dog, Bret the Hitman Hart, and Bad News Brown. Now, apparently, a deal was cut between Bret the Hitman Hart and Mr. Brown. Uh-oh, double cross. After they got Junkyard Dog out of there, the double cross came. And we heard about it from Bret the Hitman.
Listen here, Bad News Brown. The whole world in WrestleMania 4 got to see just how bad you really are. And they got to see exactly what you are. You're nothing but a double cross. And are you supposed to scare me? Is it supposed to put fear in my heart, the fact that you're from Harlem? Because it doesn't. Because the Hitman, when I grew up, when I dragged myself down and out of the dungeon in my father's house, nothing scared me, nothing. And no man has ever put fear in the Hitman's heart, because the fear is going to be in your heart, because you've pushed someone too far this time. You've pushed the Hitman over the brink. And he's coming after you. And this time, I'm not going to be busting up any trophies. No, I'm going to go for bigger game than that. I'm going to bust you up, Bad News Brown. I'm going to bust you in half.
Let me tell you something, Bret Hart. Do you know how I got the name Bad News? Everybody in the neighborhood gave it to me because they knew when I came out on the streets, when I hit the pavements that day, they knew it was going to be bad news for somebody, and it's going to be bad news for you. That's right, because you got to pay the price. I intend to take you and teach you the lesson of your life, but I'm a kind guy. I have a good heart. I intend to leave just enough for you, so when I'm through with you, they can take and make fertilizer out of you. That's right, fertilizer, because that's all you'll be worth. It's garbage. Fertilizer, garbage, nothing else, because you won't be worth anything else when I slam this upside your head.
All right, Bad News Brown. You will be meeting Bret the Hitman Hart. Bad news, that can't be good news in light of all that has happened between you and Bret the Hitman Hart. Stay tuned. We've got more action right after this.
All right, guys, so these promos repeat. I know we heard those, I believe, on a wrestling challenge on the last episode of The Grenade, but I can't help getting enough of these early Bret Hart promos. They all start off with the same sentence, so you got to be careful to see if they're a repeat or a brand new interview here from the Hitman, but he keeps insisting that Bad News Brown, nothing but a double cross, a no-good low-down stinky hyena double cross. And Brown, never exactly the best promo himself, but these early WWF ones are what the kids today call cringe. But once they get in the ring, should make for some fun matches here between the Hitman and Bad News Brown. As we go back to the ring for Brutus the Barber Beefcake. His opponent today, Bob Bryant. And right away, we get an insert promo from the Barber, who warns the IC champion Honky Tonk Man that he won't be as lucky as his manager Jimmy Hart. You see, Beefer going to take a lot more off the top of the Intercontinental Champion. And while he's at it, he's going to take his title too. As the match gets going, it looks like we got a new job guy here in Bob Bryant. Very tall, but very shitty looking. As a Beefcake going to go into the sleeper hold, pick up the win here, 1 minute and 46 seconds, followed by his post-match trimming for Mr. Bryant. So this may be his one and only, one and done. We'll have to wait and see there. As we continue on with Superstars, it's a special interview. Craig DeGeorge up on the platform talking with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, as Duggan wants to make it clear to the fans and to Andre the Giant that he has no fear for the eighth wonder of the world. Duggan says Andre, he may be a giant, but in Hacksaw's eyes, Andre is a very small man. Then again, in Duggan's eyes, a lot of things probably seem a little off-kilter. But the feud continues on, tough guy, Hacksaw and Andre, And plenty of TV time here over the past 3 weeks for these two as this feud continues on, really selling this as a top match, perhaps a B-show headliner, if you will. As we continue on, oh man, things are getting good now, guys. We head back to the ring for Ravishing Rick Rude with Bobby Heenan in his corner, Rick taking on Jake Milliman, the old milkman. And we get an insert promo here, another feed of several lady fans hoping for a chance to get their hands or their lips on Ravishing Rick and his rude awakening kiss. Great hard sell on this new gimmick for Rick Rude post-Mania, the kiss. As Rude going to dominate the action here, posing plenty in between the moves, and it is the Rude Awakening neckbreaker on Milliman. Going to give Rick Rude the win, 1 minute and 41 seconds. And speaking of Rude Awakenings, post-match, it's time once again for a lucky lady to be selected out of the audience for a Rude Awakening kiss. As Bobby Heenan tells a male fan, "No way, buddy," as Jesse Ventura quips, "Is Patterson in the building?" I wrote, wow. Anywho, back to the angle. This week, Rick Rude selects a lady seated in the front row, dressed in white, but she doesn't seem to want to leave her seat. She seems to be refusing Rick's advances. I don't know how well that's going to sit with Ravishing Rick, as he thinks she's just playing hard to get. But the announcers feel, well, maybe she's just shy. Jesse Ventura pointing out that Rude likes the one with the rings on, pointing out that this lady, she appears to be married. As Rude talks up the young lady's sexy legs as he cuts his music and exits the ring to confront her at the guardrail.
It's that time again.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to give some young lady the thrill of her lifetime. I'm going to give some young lady a rude awakening. Who will it be, Bobby? Well, you see anything over here you like? There's nothing over here.
It's kind of like shopping at the supermarket for Rude, you know? Going shopping in Cape Girardeau, huh?
Yeah. Now you, buddy.
Ha, what'd he say? He said, not you, buddy. Some guy wanted a rude awakening.
Nah, we got lucky on this side.
That character Patterson's not in the building, is he? I don't know about
There
that.
she is, Bobby.
Well, they've chosen
All
someone.
decked out in white.
Whoa!
Come on up here, little... Oh, look, Bobby, she's
Well, you were talking about Beauty and Beast earlier on. That's a beauty for sure.
The waters run deep, don't
They must have flown her
Sure
in.
do. Come on up here, little lady.
You think she's from this town? You really believe it? Why not? Must have come from St. Louis, Kansas City, somewhere.
Hey, baby
How about
cakes.
that? I don't think she's
What
all that
opportunity
thrilled
comes?
with getting into
You've
the
got
ring,
to
but
answer
she's
the
not
door.
getting up, Jesse.
Come on up here,
She's sitting
Dr.
right there.
Rat.
I'll tell you what it is, McMahon. She's just shy. She's embarrassed. That's the problem.
Cut the music. Cut the music.
Not only that, she's liable to faint if she gets in there. She's so thrilled. No, sirree, I don't.
And as the conversation continues on, Rude asking this woman if she is there to see his ravishing body.
Look at, she's embarrassed. Who wouldn't
You sure looking fine tonight, sweetheart.
He likes those women with the rings on.
She's looking good, ain't she, Bobby? She's
That's playing a little she's hard married. You're right.
Used to that. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Ooh, look at those legs, Bobby.
I think this is demeaning myself. I mean,
Sweetheart, I know you might be a little intimidated by the sexiest man alive, but you know, and I know, that you're here for the same reason all these other ladies are here, and that is to see Ravishing Rick Rude. Am I right?
Wrong.
about that!
Wrong.
I can't believe it. This girl getting the chance of her lifetime for stardom, and she says
look at
wrong.
Heenan can't believe it. Ravishing Rick Rude.
Which surprises Rick. Rude then asking her to admit that he is the sexiest man in the WWF. And again, the woman responds,
Sweetheart, I can understand you're a little bit intimidated right now.
Look at those
So I'm
eyes.
going to make it real easy for you. Tell me, is Ravishing Rick Rude the sexiest man in the WWF?
W.
No.
Oh, about that! Hot dog!
No.
I can't believe this.
How about that?
Where'd they find?
Ravishing Rick Rude is being rejected.
Where'd they find that tramp?
Scared of the camera.
What'd you call her?
Scared of the camera. Come on, huh?
Heenan gonna take care of her in a minute.
And taken aback, Rude asks her, well then, who is it that she is here to see? And the lady replies,
Okay, baby cakes. Tell me now, if you didn't come here to see Ravishing Rick Rude, the sexiest man alive, who did you come here to see?
My husband.
Your husband.
Was that the Joker sitting next to her?
I like that.
Which aisle's he working? He must be an usher here.
Bobby and Rick having a laugh, making a joke. Is he the janitor? Maybe the usher here? What exactly does her husband do? To which she responds,
Must be an. No, it's that guy
Where
next to
is
her.
this ugly thing your husband? Where is your husband? I don't see him. Just what does this husband do?
Professional wrestler.
Professional
Jesse.
wrestler.
Well, that's not my wife,
He's that hand
McMahon.
nigger you just wiped the mat with. Honey, he's going to be unconscious for a while. You better hop on the Ravishing bandwagon.
A professional
Ravishing
wrestler.
bandwagon, that weasel. Wait a minute,
that sweet?
that's somebody's wife?
And
Whose
just
wife
who
is that,
might this
McMahon?
big, bad, professional wrestler be, baby cakes?
professional wrestler. That's sports entertainer, pal. Not anymore, Vince. But in disbelief, Rick Rude pondering, was her husband the man that he just disposed of in the ring? Is she Miss Milliman? Who, in fact, is this lady's husband? As she replies,
Whose wife is that,
this
McMahon?
big, bad, professional wrestler be, baby cakes?
Jake the Snake Roberts.
Whoa, my goodness! I can't believe it. You're telling me out of this whole crowd, Rude picks Jake the Snake Roberts' wife? Hey, that's that
Well, I should have known.
What?
Jake the Snake Roberts. And the crowd goes absolutely nuts as Rick Rude is now appalled. He says that Jake Roberts is a piece of garbage. And since she's married to him, that makes her a piece of garbage as well. A lowlife. In fact, their entire family must be garbage. Woof, that's pretty rough there. Ravishing Rick, as the woman doesn't take the verbal abuse and lands a slap across the face of Ravishing Rick as the crowd pops huge.
Well, I should have known. That man is nothing but a sleazy, low-down, worthless piece of garbage.
Whoa.
And I'm going to tell you something,
Jake
woman.
the Snake earlier on.
For you to hang with that man,
Wrestled.
that makes you just as much as a stinking lowlife as he is.
I can't
In my
believe
book, your old man, and anybody in your family isn't worth 2 cents.
That's insulting.
So what do you think about that?
Oh! I can't believe it! She does up and slap.
You want to play rough, sweetheart?
Oh, wait a minute.
You
Come
wanna
on.
play rough?
Hey, somebody control him. She hit him first.
He's hurting her wrist.
But Rude, he won't be humiliated here. On TV, grabbing the young woman by her wrist, talking more trash, threatening her. As we now see Jake Roberts rushing ringside. Jake running past Rick, plowing over Bobby Heenan, giving Rude an opening to attack Jake from behind, stomping him down. As we get a zillion officials out here and tons of enhancement talent as well, out to break things up.
Come on! Wait a minute! Here comes Jake the Snake! Jake the Snake Roberts! Probably from out of the shower! Jake the Snake! He's being hammered by Rude!
Look at Rude doing a number on him.
His wife, Jake the Snake's wife, screaming, watching her husband being booted! Look at Bobby Heenan! Getting in those cheap shots! Jake the Snake going after Ravishing Rick Rude! Totally out of control! Pandemonium! Jake the Snake's wife really upset! Her husband could be getting the daylights kicked out of him just moments ago!
And it's all her fault. If she'd have kissed Rude, none of this would have happened.
Jake the Snake choke again. Jake going after Roode. Pandemonium has broken loose here. That's what she thought about that, as you see. Jake the Snake Roberts' wife slapping, ravishing Rick Rude. She can't believe what she's done. And look at this, Jesse. That no good. Look at him applying the pressure on her wrist. That must be hurting her.
Hey, as well he should. She hit him first.
Ravishing Rick Rude, just because he's been rejected, justifiably so, really clamping down on that wrist until Jake the Snake Roberts comes flying out of the shower on his way down to help his wife. How would you like it if that was your wife being humiliated there? Huh? Your wife being humiliated, caught from the blind side by Rick Rude, and then your wife standing over as she is right now, sitting down and watching what's happening to her very husband, having the daylights kicked out of him by ravishing Rick Rude.
And there she is, knowing all along she could have saved this whole thing if she'd have just kissed ravishing Rick Rude.
Well, there's not going to be any kissing going on indeed. Ravishing Rick Rude is going to be taught a lesson, I'm certain, somewhere down the line by Jake the Snake Roberts. We'll be right back as we continue.
As Jake and Rick, they have a pull-apart brawl off and on, all the way up the aisle, all the way to the back, a wild melee, a great intense brawl, chaos everywhere, all the way into a commercial break. And I got to say, whoever designed this angle, phenomenal for the time, from every aspect. And kudos to everyone involved who sold their part well, including Jake's wife, Cheryl, who will now be part of the World Wrestling Federation. And what an angle, a great memory in time. And man, it really sets things off for one of the epic feuds to come over the summer into the fall. Ravishing Rick Rude and Jake the Snake Roberts. And you better believe we're going to have plenty more on that as we continue on here on Superstars. We go back to WrestleMania 4, and we get the Macho Man Randy Savage taking on the Natural Butch Reed. Savage going over. That was a first-round match. We get to see highlights of it here on Superstars. And then it's off to the Event Center. Mean Gene Okerlund going to speak with the Intercontinental Champion Honky Tonk Man and his manager, Jimmy Hart. We're also going to hear from Bobby Heenan and his once again charge, Andre the Giant.
Jake the Snake Roberts, ravishing Rick Rude, you didn't need anything else to add to the friction, to the bad feelings that exist between the two of you. Speaking of WrestleMania 4, truly one of the highlights of that spectacular had to be the matchup between Brutus the Barber Beefcake and the then Intercontinental Champ, as he is right now, this man, the Honky Tonk Man.
This represents the greatest Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion of all time. And this represents the greatest entertainer of all time. And this represents the total entertainment package. I sing, I dance, I play the guitar, and I wrestle Brutus the Barber Beefcake. And just because you got Jimmy Hart barred from ringside, just because you cut Jimmy Hart's hair off, that don't mean you're going to cut mine. That don't mean you're going to wear this belt. See, strange things happen when Jimmy Hart's not around, but even stranger things happen when Jimmy Hart is around. Brutus the Barber, you think because you put me to sleep once, you can do it again. You think because you cut his hair, you can cut mine? Never happened, friend. Never happened.
I understand at various locations around the country now, Colonel Jimmy Hart has been barred from entering the building. You know the reasons for that. Of course, he always interferes. What about this match? Could be worth the price of admission alone. Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Andre.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I will not be held responsible. I had Jack Tunney write it into the contract. I will not be responsible for what this man does to you, Hacksaw Duggan. Matter of fact, I'm going to enjoy it.
Cross-eyed Duggan, you think you're a tough guy. You maybe broke that 2x4 in my back once. You maybe put me down once, but nobody ever did that before. And Cross-eyed Duggan, this time is your turn to go down. Remember that.
Is he upset? Andre the Giant, eighth wonder of the world, and one of the biggest men in any professional sport ever. And of course, he is one of the great superstars here in the World Wrestling Federation. Soon to be Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
All right, so Honky Tonk Man, the total entertainment package, I love it, admits that Brudai, he got a hold of his manager, poor Jimmy, but the barber won't touch the jet black hair of the Intercontinental Champion. And then we heard from Andre the Giant coming after that crooked-eyed Duggan, and Heenan, obviously now, back by the Giant's side. As we conclude this edition of Superstars, we move on now to the April 24th edition of Wrestling Challenge. All right, guys, Wrestling Challenge, April 24th, tape back March 20th, Springfield, Illinois, at the Prairie Capital Convention Center. It's Bobby Heenan, Gorilla Monsoon on commentary, and Mel Phillips, the ring announcer, also going to finish up here as the Wrestling Challenge ring announcer. We're going to have a brand new one coming next week, so stay tuned. As we head off to the ring now for the Junkyard Dog, taking on Barry Horowitz. We get an insert promo here from the Outlaw Ron Bass, who calls Dog out. He says, any place, anytime, JYD. Meanwhile, in the ring, Barry Horowitz going to do his best to run and hide, prolong the inevitable, as eventually it's a big clothesline and the thump power slam going to give the Dog the win in just 3 minutes. As we roll off now to Special Report with Lord Alfred Hayes talking all about the Demolition and Strike Force.
Beginning of a long reign of terror, or can the Strike Force come back from this brutal defeat? Here after WrestleMania 4 are the comments of both teams.
Yes, a picture tells 1,000 words. Everybody just saw how Demolition stole the belt from us, and you're not going to get away with it.
You know, Demolition's talking about, if we want the belt, come and get them. Well, don't worry, Demolition, because we can't wait to step in the ring and get those belts back where they belong, baby. Strike Force!
Strike Force. Master Fuji ordered us to be the champions. And what happened? We are. So anytime you want to try us again, you bring it on.
The mark of a true championship team is you take advantage of a golden opportunity. The mark of true champions is you're standing with the gold.
The very presence of Demolition strikes terror into the hearts of stout men. But never count out Strike Force battling their way back to the top once more. With this special report, I'm Lord Alfred Hayes.
All right, so we hear from both sides. The Demolition have been on a tear since WrestleMania, but Strike Force hot on their heels for that rematch, hoping to regain their tag team titles. And then it's back to the ring for Bad News Brown taking on Keith Watkins. And we get an insert promo here from the Hitman Bret Hart, who says he will destroy Bad News like he did his trophy at WrestleMania. The lousy double cross, I'll show him. I'm a triple cross. Aww. Well, I don't know who Watkins is here in this matchup, but his glorious perm adds to his great bumps and selling. I got to say, this guy knows how to take a bump, does Keith Watkins here. He never even gets his shiny jacket off. Total beatdown, complete with the Ghetto Blaster. Going to give Bad News the win in just 1 minute and 35 seconds as we roll off now to the event center. Mean Gene going to have a word with Dangerous Danny Davis, as well as Sam Houston?
All right, hi again, everybody. Gene Okerlund back in the World Wrestling Federation Event Center. And, of course, a lot of things to talk about. What about this ongoing feud between Bad News Brown and Bret the Hitman Hart? Hart changing a great deal. And Bad News, I think you're the man that's responsible for that change. And that's good news for us. Hey, by the way, in the May edition of the World Wrestling Federation magazine, it's on newsstands right now. On the front cover is the First Lady of Wrestling. She is the lovely Elizabeth, and she is the manager for the World Wrestling Federation champion, undisputed champion, Macho Man Randy Savage. Thing I wanted to point out inside, very interesting reading on Sam Houston. His background from Waco, Texas. Young Sam Houston is one of the stars to really watch here in the World Wrestling Federation. There is a complete personality profile in the May issue of the World Wrestling Federation magazine. He's got an adversary here. His name is Dangerous Danny Davis.
Sam Houston. Even the name stinks. Well, Sam Houston, when I'm through with you, you're going to have to go back to Texas and wallow through the meadows and the cow dung just like you did before you got here. Sam Houston, let me tell you something. You may rustle cattle, or whatever you do down there, but as far as I'm concerned, you're a drugstore cowboy. You mean nothing to me, but you're going to face Dangerous Danny Davis, and that's going to be the ultimate test. Hey, y'all ever get the feeling of being shot at and missed, and spit at and hit? Well, that's about how I feel right now. Danny Davis, let me tell you what comes to my mind when I think about you. Dangerous, lethal. A lot of words like that, because that's what's wrote on the back of your trunks all the time when I see you running away from me. Well, all I want to do, Danny Davis, is get you in the ring. I don't want to just beat you. I want to hurt you. And it's real serious in my heart and in my mind, because I want to be number one in this world. I tell you what, Danny, look out for me.
All right, getting comments there from Dangerous Danny Davis, the former World Wrestling Federation referee, who, by the way, was fired. He was fired by World Wrestling Federation President Jack Tunney. and justifiably so, Mr. Tunney. And, of course, his opponent, soon to be young Sam Houston from Waco, Texas. A couple of great ones, stars on the horizon here in the World Wrestling Federation.
Danny Davis mocking Sam Houston all the way down to his stupid name. Well, I'm not going to lie. Not the most clever of names, Sam. Meanwhile, though, Sam looking to put a hurtin' on Dangerous Danny. And you realize, guys, when we look back, that this shit between Danny Davis and Sam Houston, it started like right after Survivor Series, I do believe. So 5 months strong now. Danny Davis and Sam Houston on a house show near you. And then it's back to the ring for Hacksaw Jim Duggan taking on Conquistador number 2, numero dos. This is Jose Estrada under the Conquistador mask for this matchup, as we get a pre-match clip from last week's show from Superstars, where Hacksaw took on Frankie DeFalco. Remember, Andre came ringside, attempted to attack Duggan, but Hacksaw was ready with his trusty 2x4. And speaking of action here, we've seen lots of attacking here in the ring already this week on television, and here, no different, as the Conquistador going to jump Duggan, but Hacksaw begins to no-sell, makes the quick comeback, and it's regular clotheslines plenty, followed by the Old Glory knee drop, and then the 3-point stance into yet another clothesline. Duggan leaving his feet for this one, going to score the win 2 minutes and 53 seconds over the Conquistador. As we go off now, back again to Mean Gene and the event center. This time we're going to hear, wow, we haven't heard from this one in a while. It's George the Animal Steele, followed by Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
All right, Hacksaw Jim Duggan certainly asserting himself here in the World Wrestling Federation. Andre the Giant, you can challenge all you want, but I know when that 2x4 comes out, you got to have second thoughts. You know, I was going through LAX, Los Angeles International Airport the other day. Somebody gave me a finger, but I'll tell you what. I ran into Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He gave me this thumb. What do you think, tough guy? Hi-yo! Oh, yeah, is that Hacksaw Jim Duggan? Something else, huh? Very good, Hacksaw. You've got to be kidding me. By the way, there are a lot of things happening in the World Wrestling Federation. We have certainly not heard the end of the story between Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Andre the Giant, the 8th wonder of the world, a true superstar. What about Jim the Anvil Neidhart? He's got an upcoming meeting somewhere here in the World Wrestling Federation against kind of a strange cat, if you will. I'm talking about George the Animal Steele.
Animal! Anvil! Hurt! Bye-bye!
You know, with the Hart Foundation, we do our homework. We study well. And I can see that by studying George Animal Steele...
How can you study a man's tactics like that?
There is no studying. It's just straight. Bow!
All right, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, he goes back a ways. Big football star at UCLA, then on to the Oakland Raiders as a linebacker, and then on to the World Wrestling Federation as one of the great superstars. I got to give credit where credit is due. Neidhart did it all. He became a World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champion. George the Animal Steele, well, that's a different trip. You got to love that guy. George the Animal Steele, one of the most popular right now here on the World Wrestling Federation.
So selling random matches that may or may not take place in the house shows right now, one of them likely being George Steele and Jim Neidhart. And remember back to WrestleMania, the Battle Royal, I'm just putting this together myself. It was the Animal who never entered the match that actually eliminated Anvil. Remember, he reached up, grabbed him by his goatee, and yanked him out of the match. So we can pretend that's the reason these guys could be quote-unquote feuding should we see matches between these two men on the upcoming house shows. As we hear from George Steele there looking to hurt the Anvil, Jim Neidhart minus the Hitman and Jimmy Hart for that promo, by the way. Little foreshadowing there of things to come. So Bret Hart, he gets bad news. Jim Neidhart gets George Steele. I guess he's back in the doghouse. What have you done now, Anvil? But kind of an odd dynamic as the Hart Foundation are still a unit, guys. Wrestling singles, however, Bret Hart working a heel in Bad News Brown, and Neidhart still playing a bully heel here. So very weird dynamic, but very interesting at the same time. As we go back to the ring for the Canadian strongman, Dino Bravo, Frenchie Martin in his corner, Dino taking on Omar Atlas. Oh, and here we go. It's the debut of the USA is not okay sign. Great heat there from Frenchie Martin. Now that's how you get over, guys. Frenchie on the microphone as well before the matchup. And then to the action. Dino Bravo going to show off his power early on, but the grizzled veteran Omar Atlas comes battling back. Nice drop kick, crossbody on Bravo as well. But Dino managing to turn the tides after countering a monkey flip with a nasty-looking inverted atomic drop, followed by a pile driver, gut-wrench suplex, and the old patented side suplex. Going to get the win here for Bravo, 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And hey, call it perfect timing, call it interesting booking, guys. But just as Dino Bravo finishes his matchup, we go off to Craig DeGeorge up on the platform. A special interview with the Olympic strongman, Ken Patera. And as we cut to the interview platform, we can visibly see Frenchie and Dino Bravo still in the ring, celebrating their matchup. Meanwhile, Patera getting the fans to chant, USA, USA, Kenny putting over participating in the 1972 Olympics, while calling Bravo's bench press of 700 plus bogus. Well, we're on to something there. Kenny then lays out a challenge for a quote-unquote test of strength against Dino Bravo, so this thing will now escalate, it would seem. I, for one, can't wait. As we continue on, more action in the ring. It's the Islanders, Haku and Tama, with manager Bobby Heenan taking on Van Horn and the Cowboys, Scott Casey. And with Bobby Heenan ringside, Gorilla Monsoon gonna roll solo on this one as we get an insert promo from the Brain, mocking Coco Beware for losing to a manager at WrestleMania. How could you, Birdman? And in the ring, Scott Casey gets in a few licks to start, but the Islanders gonna dominate the action from there. Haku with a nice backbreaker, and then Tama off the top rope with that diving splash, going to score the win on Van Horn. Match goes 3 minutes and 7 seconds. And guys, enjoy the Islanders while they last. As we roll on, another WrestleMania 4 report. Wow, are we still doing this? It's Mean Gene Okerlund talking about the Intercontinental title match from the pay-per-view between Honky Tonk Man, Brutus Beefcake. We know Beefer going to win the match on DQ, but Honky will retain the title. And the biggest loss of all was Jimmy Hart, who suffered a haircut at the hands of Brute Eye. And then it's back to the ring for the Ultimate Warrior, taking on Dick Donovan, another job guy I'm not really familiar with. In fact, I'm starting to wonder who booked this entire crew of enhancement talent for this couple set of TV tapings. As Donovan tries for a crossbody early on, but he's caught in midair by the Warrior and dropped across the top rope. Then from there, UW chopping away on Dick, sending him over the top rope and to the outside. Warrior going to follow him out to the floor, beat him down, club him down, slam him for good measure on the outside, and even tosses him into the ring steps. And then, for good measure, another body slam on the floor. I wrote, damn! Warrior just beating the crap out of Dick Donovan here. And then back inside, it's the big running clothesline, gorilla press drop, and the big splash. Going to give UW the win. 2 minutes and 23 seconds as Warrior Man was on a mission this week to fuck somebody up. Luckily, it was this one-off job guy, Dick, as the crowd continues to fall in love with the Ultimate One. As we go off now to Mean Gene Okerlund in the Event Center, we're going to hear from Hercules, his manager Bobby Heenan, and on the other side, it's more Bobby with Andre the Giant.
All right, a couple of things I want to touch on. First of all, Hacksaw, Jim Duggan, Andre the Giant. It is imperative that those two men meet to clear the air, to resolve the differences that they have here in the World Wrestling Federation. One man that certainly has got his work cut out for him. I have never seen such a dynamic champion as Macho Man, Randy Savage, the World Wrestling Federation's champion. And his manager is the lovely Elizabeth. Macho Madness is alive. Elizabeth, his lovely manager, of course, guiding him through all these troubled times. What a team they make. The Macho Man, current champion here in the World Wrestling Federation. Hey, sooner or later, Ultimate Warrior is going to be meeting this man, Hercules.
You know, Ultimate Warrior, most people get sweaty palms, their knees shake when it gets close to the end. This man doesn't seem worried. But you're scared, I'll bet you.
Warrior, this time we're going to tie up all those loose ends. We're going to answer all the questions, quash all the doubts. This time, your defeat is going to be complete. It's going to be definite. You will be mine, Warrior.
Oh, man, all that Hercules has been through, and then this bright, brilliant young star, the Ultimate Warrior, shows up, and it's another test for the veteran Hercules. We talked about Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and of course what he's got ahead for him, this man, Andre the Giant.
You know something, Hacksaw? You're going to be yelling. It's not going to be that, hey! It's going to be,
No, what can you talk and no, what can you say, tough guy? We're going to see who's the tough guy. Hacksaw Duggan. Remember, I just got you a little bit by that neck. But this time, nobody can get you out of that. I will squeeze and squeeze and squeeze, Duggan. But no way can you go say, I give. You go talk anymore, Duggan. You go be down and down, Hacksaw Duggan.
All right, he is the 8th wonder of the world, 7'4.5", well over 500 pounds. Andre the Giant, sooner or later, to meet Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
And you guys couldn't see it there, but Mean Gene rocking the Macho Man foam finger for this edition of the Event Center. As we hear Bobby Heenan doing double duty, talking with Hercules and Andre. Hercules looking for revenge on the Ultimate Warrior, who we just saw in action. Andre looking to squeeze the life out of one Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And with the Islanders working the Bulldogs and Rick Rude now married to Jake Roberts, Bobby Heenan has a lot going on right now in the World Wrestling Federation as we continue on to April 25th and the WWF's Primetime Wrestling hosted by Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Welcome once again to Primetime Wrestling. I'm Gorilla Monsoon, and this is the anniversary boy.
Boy, you think Letterman had a party for his anniversary?
What is
or
all
Carson?
This? Did you do all this?
Well, I had a company come in and decorate the whole
caterer.
thing. Yes, everything.
And the cake? Why does the cake say happy birthday? It's not a birthday. It's an anniversary.
Look at it. The chef made a mistake. You know, that can happen.
It looks like a 7-Eleven cake, and probably was a name down. Was it Jessica or something?
No, he just made a mistake.
Happy birthday.
It's a thumbprint. For the way it was delivered by the inferior crew we have here.
Lucky for you that I have a legitimate cake coming.
This cake will do fine.
It's not. It's a birthday cake, and this is an anniversary.
Are you trying to say I stiffed some kid out of a cake?
Absolutely, you got it. You have anything special planned for this?
Yes, I'm planning to keep cake free. You're not going to bring no cake here and push my face down in like you did last year.
We have purely unintentional, I'm sure.
Yes.
You know, we have a great show lined up. The World Wrestling Federation champion is going to be our feature this week, the Macho Man, Randy Savage, along with Elizabeth. A match from WrestleMania 4. Yeah, we got a lot of your guys.
That's right. Ravishing Rick Rude.
You don't have too many left, do you? I mean, guys that have any true meaning anymore.
Are you kidding? Don't make me laugh. And I understand there's going to be a salute to me on this program.
There is.
Yes.
Absolutely.
The greatest things I've done on primetime television.
You actually want to show that? I put it together for you if you want to see it.
Of course I want to see it.
You know, it's been 2 years now, and congratulations are in order. But our first upcoming match right now, Jake the Snake Roberts and Chris Curtis. Let's go to ringside.
All right, it is the 2-year anniversary for the Brain here. He presents himself a mini cake. Looks like he might have stole it from a bakery, as it's not an anniversary cake. It looks like a birthday cake, says Gorilla. But he has a real one coming for the Brain. Gorilla also has a video package planned later in the episode, going to put over 2 years of Bobby Heenan here on Primetime Wrestling. And of course, Monsoon putting it together himself would likely lead us to believe it's going to be a little humiliating for the Brain. As we continue on here, more sound bites. Gorilla Monsoon. It looks like the cake has arrived. Gorilla Monsoon going to present Bobby Heenan with his 2nd anniversary dessert.
Plenty of exciting matches here this week on Primetime Wrestling, as always. How many glasses is that you've had already?
Not important.
Not important.
My anniversary.
Please.
Monsoon?
Yes.
The cake just arrived.
Oh, great. You hear that? Our real cake just arrived. Let's get rid of this piece of...
What's it?
We'll put it
It's
right...
a good cake.
Put it right over
There's
here.
no room over there
There
for
is
that.
plenty of room there. We'll just stick it right there. Oh, look at this. Look at this, Brain.
Oh, Dollar Bimbo's
Now,
here, huh?
This is an anniversary cake. Take a look at that. Happy prime time second... What?
I'm leaving.
Second time.
I'm leaving right now.
Why?
Put that down and
I
not
am. I'm
on
going
me.
to put it right here on the counter. And, boy, this is a piece of cake. No,
Yeah.
not the baseball expression piece of cake, just a lovely cake that we're all going to partake
I am not going to
of.
sit here unless you give me your word you will not push my face in it or throw that in my face or set me in that.
Would I do something
You've done
like
it all
that?
the time to me. Tell me that or I'm leaving right now.
I swear. Scout's honor.
Or you're through with primetime.
Scout's honor, you can be the permanent host of primetime if I, in fact, let you have this cake. Literally. How's that? Is that good enough for you? Right now, folks, let's take you up to Beantown.
So Bobby Heenan has Gorilla Monsoon to promise that he won't put his face in the cake or he will have to leave primetime wrestling for good, to which Gorilla Monsoon agrees. Remember last year, Bobby Heenan, Gorilla inadvertently causing the Brain to go face first down into the cake. I believe Gorilla was trying to answer Heenan's phone, if I remember correctly. It's been a while, guys. So Gorilla basically promising, all right, Brain, I won't put your face in the cake. Last year was an accident. It won't happen again. And if it does, I'll leave primetime forever. So says the Gorilla. So now it becomes like that black cat in the old Pepe Le Pew cartoons. How will she get that white stripe on her back this time? And so we have to figure out how Bobby Heenan is going to get his face in that cake before this edition of Primetime concludes, and we'll have to wait and see. As we go on, we continue on. We come out of that Rick Rude, Jake, and Cheryl Roberts segment, the big storyline that just took off on Superstars. Rick Rude trying to kiss the wife of one Jake the Snake Roberts. And of course, the melee that followed, we're going to hear right now from Bobby Heenan and his take on the situation.
That was despicable. Disgusting.
I'll tell you something right now. You shouldn't have your wife at work. The guy that works at the gas station doesn't bring his fat old lady and put her on the grease rack. The guy that cuts boxes up at the supermarket doesn't set her down in the produce department. The last thing Jake Roberts should do is bring his ugly old wife
You're
and
in
sit her
enough
at
trouble.
ringside.
Watch what you say now.
So don't try to embarrass me or embarrass Ravishing Rick Rude. She wanted to kiss him. She wanted to be with him. She wanted to touch him. She was in the front row to see him. That's what happened. So don't try to ruin my party by doing something like that.
You and Ravishing Rick started something that I believe that Jake the Snake Roberts is going to finish.
Yeah. We're going to take
That's
that snake.
very personal.
He didn't hit the woman. Woman, excuse me. What a compliment for that bimbo. He grabbed her wrist.
Plenty more action still to come here this week on Primetime. We'll be back with
I don't
Hillbilly
see you
Jim
in any
a moment.
magazines.
So Gorilla naturally referring to this situation as despicable and disgusting. As Bobby Heenan replies, well, you shouldn't bring your ugly old broad to work, Jake. I'm sure that's going to give Heenan some extra points there with the Snake Man. And as we talked about, throughout the episode, we continue to wait and see how is Bobby Heenan going to wind up with that cake. And all throughout the episode, Bobby continues to celebrate his second anniversary by continuing to drink multiple glasses of champagne or wine or something along those lines. And finally, by the end of the episode, Bobby Heenan going to pass out, gets a little pat on the back from Gorilla, and Heenan goes face first into the cake. And that's how it happens this time, guys. Bobby Heenan passes out. I guess he was drunk. And Gorilla Monsoon, just a little touch on the shoulder, and Bobby Heenan goes face first down into the cake to conclude this edition of Primetime Wrestling. Also on the show, there was one exclusive matchup taped back March 19th in Cape Girardeau. It was the one-man gang teaming with Outlaw Ron Bass, who was subbing for Butch Reed. They knew Reed was leaving at WrestleMania, and this would air afterwards, so why even include him in the match? It was the gang and Ron Bass defeating the team of The Rock, Don Morocco, and the Ultimate Warrior on a disqualification. Match goes about 12 minutes when the Junkyard Dog gonna arrive ringside attacking the Outlaw with his dog chain after we saw the Outlaw begin choking Don Morocco with Miss Betsy the Bullwhip. What an odd sight, I must say, post-match to see the Ultimate Warrior, Don Morocco, and the Junkyard Dog in the ring celebrating together. but it's actually the heels who will go over here on the JYD's interference. 12 minutes time. What an interesting, odd pairing here in this matchup, and really what an odd sight to see again. Warrior Dog and Morocco to close this segment.
You're watching USA, America's all-entertainment network.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, curator of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, inviting you guys to listen to many of the programs here as part of the WrestleCopia brand, including, but not limited to, the Wrestling Memory Grenade, currently covering the 1988 and the WWF project. You can also listen to the Regional Wrestling Podcast, where we talk the territories, whether it's Jamie Ward with Georgia 81, Roman Gomez with the UWF in 1986, or Gene Jackson covering Memphis in 85. 3 projects going on right now over there at Regional Wrestling. You can also listen to the Wrestling Stoop with the legend himself, Bob Roop. Bob goes back in time each and every week, covering not just his career, but countless stories and interactions with hundreds of wrestling names spanning his 2 decades in the business. But that's not all. You can also check out the Puro Wrestling Academy with the professor of Puro Resu, Mr. Dan Ginnity. Dan and I go back in time and cover the history of Japanese professional wrestling in the English language. And you can listen to all of those shows and more, all part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network, located over at WrestleCopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, and anywhere your podcast streaming needs are met, from Apple to Spotify, Pocket Cast, and beyond. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to our social media guys for all the latest goings on here at the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Plus, I'm constantly adding old school video clips and pictures from throughout wrestling history. You can follow us over on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also, follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. And why not subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. And of course, now would be a fantastic time to become a WrestleCopia patron. I'm talking about that $5 all access tier over at patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That address again, patreon.com/WrestleCopia, where you get so many gifts for just $5, including all of my insanely detailed show notes for every episode of The Grenade Show, Regional Wrestling, and the Monday Warfare podcast. You'll also get early access to a lot of the podcasts here on the WrestleCopia brand, where you can listen days and sometimes as much as a week earlier than the rest of the listeners. We also offer remastered versions of the earliest episodes of The Grenade Show, covering the 1989 NWA project. Includes enhanced sound quality, plus new content and conversation never heard before. But that's still not all, guys. You also get at least a dozen digital downloads for your viewing and reading pleasure each and every month, plus random bonus video drops, and of course, the Patreon exclusive Watch Along series, covering many past WWF and WCW events. And if that's not all, videocasts, also now a part of Patreon. And for those who like all of their podcasts in one nice, neat little pile, the WrestleCopia Patreon also offers a Patreon exclusive Spotify account. You can actually go over to your Spotify with your WrestleCopia Patreon credentials. Instead of listening or downloading directly from Patreon, you can go over to Spotify, listen to all the latest shows, including all of the early releases. And you get all of that and so much more for just $5. No subscription, cancel anytime. Give it a try for a month, guys. I think you'll like the content that I offer, and every penny of it goes right back here into paying the bills. So if you're looking to support that next up-and-coming podcast brand, please consider making it WrestleCopia. Help me pay some of the bills to keep the WrestleCopia Podcast Network and all of the great shows here up and running for the months and the years to come. As we continue on, another week of TV still to go. It's more WWF Superstars of Wrestling, this time for April the 30th. This was taped back, brand new set of tapings. Our first tapings after WrestleMania, guys, taped April 21st in New Haven, Connecticut at the New Haven Coliseum. And of course, as always, Vince McMahon, Jesse Ventura on commentary. And we go off to the ring to see the Ultimate Warrior take on Joe Milano. As Warrior on a rampage, and the crowd goes absolutely insane for it. Warrior seemingly supplanting Bam Bam Bigelow in the plans as he's really getting over with the fans at this point. And UW going to catch Milano on a crossbody, dumping him with a big slam. And then it's a power slam into the corner, tying Milano into a tree of woe. Warrior stomping him down. Nasty chops to follow. Very aggressive style here the last couple of weeks by the Warrior. Stiff short clothesline, running clothesline. Fans going absolutely nuts. And then it's the gorilla press drop and the big splash. Going to give Warrior the win. 1 minute and 54 seconds. As the show continues on, we go off to update Lord Alfred Hayes talking about last week's issues between Ravishing Rick Rude and Jake the Snake Roberts. And guys, we're just getting started there, I promise you. As we go back to the ring for the Junkyard Dog, taking on Iron Mike Sharp. As the Dog getting a solid reaction still, even this late in his run with the company. And with a feud against the Outlaw now, at least he has something more meaningful to do than teaming with George Steele like this time last year. Sorry, George. But speaking of the Outlaw, we get an insert promo here from Ron Bass. He says he's the new dog trainer in town, and he's going to have JYD obeying his every command. Sit down, roll over, play dead, dog. Jesse Ventura supporting Ron Bass's idea on commentary, stating that a good beating now and then will make a dog listen. Jeez, Jesse. Vince McMahon disgusted by the comments, or at least pretending to be. Pal. As a Mike Sharp with some stalling early on, but it is JYD coming back with some headbutts and the big thump on the large Mike Sharp.
Oh, okay.
Going to give the Dog the win. 1 minute and 48 seconds. The action continues on here. It's Dangerous Danny Davis out here with Jimmy Hart in his corner. One-on-one competition this week. Davis taking on Mario Mancini. As the hometown boy here is Mancini, but it's Danny Davis in full control, even using a DDT for one of his moves during the matchup. And Danny, you got to know that's a huge no-no, especially in Vince land, pal. But it's for good reason. If everybody did your finisher, it would mean a whole lot less. So it was really odd to see Danny Davis use a DDT here. I don't think we're going to see it again. We do get an insert promo from Dangerous Dan and Jimmy Hart, who have words for Brutus Beefcake cutting his manager's hair. You see, Danny, he has a match this weekend with Brudai as part of Saturday night's main event, and he's looking to exact some revenge for his manager, poor Jimmy. As we go back to the action, Mancini going to try for a sunset flip, but Davis counters with a hard right hand right between the eyes. Mario also missing a corner charge, and Davis capitalizing, going up to the top rope with a flying bombs away, a butt drop, the whoopee cushion, circa Doink era, off the top rope. Great spot, great landing, gets the win in 2 minutes and 3 seconds for Danny Davis. This has got to be the first Davis squash I can recall in quite a long time. And really just done here just to put him over to get him ready for Brutus Beefcake later tonight on Saturday night's main event. As we go off now to the event center, Mean Gene Okerlund going to be speaking with several people, including the likes of the apparently now the fabulous Rougeau brothers, the Killer Bees, and Bam Bam Bigelow, manager Oliver Humperdinck.
All right, hi again, everybody. Gene Okerlund back in the World Wrestling Federation Event Center. One match that certainly I am looking forward to seeing. It's a great tag team matchup, and it should happen in the very near future, involving the Killer Bees, B. Brian Blair, and Jumpin' Jim Brunzell, and the Rougeau brothers, Jacques and Raymond.
Well, you got it right, guys. We're the Rougeau brothers. This is Raymond, and I'm Jacques. You know, Raymond, I've been thinking about it since we joined the World Wrestling Federation. We've seen nothing but great teams. We've seen nothing but great places in the United States, and we ought to tell the people how happy we are to be here.
Well, you know, it is a great pleasure for us to be all over the United States, and we've met a lot of fantastic people. Well, upcoming now, we're going to have a match against the Killer Bees, which are a fantastic team. So, guys, be ready, because we're the Rougeau brothers, and we're going to be ready.
Right.
All right.
The Rougeau brothers, the Killer Bees, a scientific match, something we've been waiting for, something the fans have been waiting for a long time. And what's at stake? A chance to climb the ladder to the World's Tag Team Championship belts. Isn't that right, Brian?
That's right, Jim. You know, we've gotten by a lot of tough people, the Bolsheviks. We've gotten by the Demolition, a lot of no-good rule breakers. But now we're wrestling a team that's known to wrestle by the rule book for a change. We're wrestling the Rougeaus, and I've got a lot of respect for them, and so does Jim. May the best team win.
All right, the Killer Bees and the Rougeaus, certainly that should be a fantastic meeting. Bam Bam Bigelow wants the one-man gang. They met at WrestleMania 4. I can tell you this, they will meet again.
No matter where we go around this big old wonderful world, they're always saying to us, what about this big one-man gang? What about this big 6'9", 450-pound individual that thinks he can get away with whatever he wants to? Well, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen to him. He's going to bark up the wrong tree, and this time he did, because up that tree, pal, is this guy right here, Bam Bam Bigelow, and we don't take a backseat to nobody, do we?
Well, you know, gang, I've been watching you, and I see you with your big master blaster. Well, let me tell you something, pal. It ain't happening to Bammer here, because I might have to pick you and slam you up and set you up for the
nuclear
splash.
Goodness gracious.
Great balls of fire!
All right, Oliver Humperdinck, Bam Bam Bigelow, I thank you. Just a matter of time before Bam Bam meets the one-man gang here in the World Wrestling Federation. Of course, as I said before, they met on March the 27th, and I guarantee you, they're going to be meeting again.
So the fabulous Rougeaus putting over how much they love visiting all of the cities here in the United States in about just as over a top of a promo as you guys could ask for. What great guys are the Rougeau brothers. Meanwhile, the Killer Bees hard selling their upcoming matches against the Rougeaus on the house shows, expecting good, clean, technical matches. They say it's a relief to step in the ring against good guys who only wrestle clean like the Rougeaus. So hard sell on that clean wrestling, technical matches against the Rougeau brothers. We'll have to wait and see how that turns out. Meanwhile, we also hear from Bam Bam Bigelow, who apparently is still gunning for the mammoth one-man gang. As the summer, it must be around the corner now, guys. The WWF, once again, beginning to shill their ice cream bars. And we see some fans ringside enjoying that tasty, cool treat in the crowd. I'm not going to lie, they were pretty damn good. And then it's back to the ring for Dino Bravo with manager Frenchie Martin. This week, Dino taking on Nelson Valou. As the sign continues on, USA is not okay. We even get an insert promo here from Bravo, who has had enough of those USA chants, which is done in hopes to apparently get himself a few more. In the ring, it's an inverted atomic drop, a nice knee lift from Bravo here, followed by his patented side suplex. Going to give Dino Bravo the win, 1 minute and 46 seconds. And then it's back to Mean Gene Okerlund in the event center. Right now, we're going to hear from a slew of talent, including Bad News Brown, Bret the Hitman Hart, Slick standing by with his Bolsheviks. We're even going to hear from the Young Stallions.
I've talked about it in the past weeks. Bad News Brown, Bret the Hitman Hart, and of course, the Junkyard Dog. The three final men of the ring in the Invitational Battle Royal in WrestleMania 4. We thought a pact and agreement had been made between Bret the Hitman Hart and Bad News Brown, but that wasn't so. That was not the case. Bad news, you double-crossed Mr. Hart.
No. Nobody, and I mean nobody, does what you did to me, Bret Hart. You took my property, that 7-foot trophy, and you smashed it. But I tell you one thing, you are gonna pay a terrible price. Your worst nightmare is gonna be a reality, because I'm gonna bring the streets to the ring, and when I get you, I'm gonna break every bone in that miserable, spineless cockroach body of yours. No mercy, and I take no prisoners.
Listen here, Bad News Brown. How bad are you? Well, we're gonna have to find out, because the whole world got to see just how tough, how bad, and how much of a double cross you were in WrestleMania 4. But the Hitman, the greatest technical wrestler of all time, is on the warpath. And it doesn't matter if you're from Harlem, because that doesn't scare me. The thing that scares me is just how mad I can get when someone double crosses me and pushes me too far. I'm real mad.
All right, what a meeting that's going to be between Bret the Hitman Hart and Bad News Brown. The Young Stallions are on a roll. These two men, the Bolsheviks, are going to try stop it.
You know what, Young Stallions? What you see standing before you is the cream of the crop in tag team wrestling.
That's right, the Young Stallions, and we're going to embarrass you and show you why you're the greatest team in the world.
The Bolsheviks, Nikolai Volkov and Boris Zukov, you're a tough Russian tag team, and you're the best that the Russians have to offer. Well, you're looking at a good American tag team right here, the Young Stallions, and when we get in the ring with you, we're going to give you 110%. Is that right, Paul?
That's right. I'll tell you what, if that's the best that Russia has to offer, you better go back home. Don't even show up, because we're going to be ready for you, and we're going out there to represent us, the United States. That's right, baby.
USA.
And we're ready for you.
All right, Paul Roma, Jimmy Powers comprise the Young Stallions. They certainly are going to be meeting the Bolsheviks, Nikolai Volkov and Boris Zukov, managed by the Doctor of Style Slick. They're going to be meeting, all four of them, in the very near future here in the World Wrestling Federation.
Wow, talk about cramming the promos in here. And they picked the right group of guys. Short, sweet, to the point, were all four of these promos. 2 separate matches on the upcoming house shows everywhere. Bret Hart versus Bad News Brown and the Bolsheviks taking on the Young Stallions. Speaking of Young Stallions, we head back to the ring to see Jimmy Powers and Paul Roma in the ring to take on Steve Lombardi and Barry Horowitz, as the announcers using this matchup more so as a throwaway to discuss the recent Rick Rude and Jake Roberts feud that is now ongoing. Jesse going to talk about Mick Jagger, though. He recently was accused of stealing music, and now he points out that the Young Stallions have stolen Jimmy Hart's music. Yeah, like 6 months ago, Jess. Where you been? Meanwhile, in the action here, Lombardi going to take a beat down from the Stallions before tagging out to Horowitz, who takes the brunt of the offense here. Roma with a nice dropkick on Barry, and then it's Jimmy in the ring for the old Powers slam on Horowitz, going to score the win. 1 minute and 55 seconds. Young Stallions go over as they continue to the house shows and their matchups with Nikolai and Boris. As we go back now to Craig DeGeorge standing by, we've got a soundbite here. Very special interview up on the platform. Craig DeGeorge with Andre the Giant and the manager, Bobby Heenan.
And of course, the 8th wonder of the world, Andre the Giant. Well, gentlemen, needless to say, there's still a buzz here in the World Wrestling Federation regarding the happenings of a few weeks ago. You remember when Hacksaw Jim Duggan hammered the Giant? Now, wait a minute. Hammered him before he's never...
Just a minute. You're going to say nobody's ever knocked out the Giant. Nobody has. No man one-on-one has ever knocked this man out. But you pick up a 2x4. You put a 2x4 in the hands of a man who's crazy, who's a lunatic, and who lost his mind, then he becomes very dangerous. Well, when you wake up a sleeping giant, he becomes very, very dangerous.
Andre, one thing.
And I'm going to tell you one thing, Hacksaw Duggan. You're the one who started, and you're the one who get the trouble. Because you're so stupid. You are the one who asked for it. You challenged me. You maybe put me down with that 2x4. But now it's my turn to put you down. But the way I will put you down, Hacksaw Duggan, I don't need a 2x4. The only thing I need is just my hand, Hacksaw Duggan. I will get you by that neck. And I will squeeze and squeeze and squeeze, Duggan. I will squeeze until you got just a little bit there to say, I give. And you will give, Hacksaw Duggan, because what you asked for it, you will get it, and you will get it the giant way. Because now I'm mad, and when I'm mad, believe me.
And one other thing, when he's mad, he's dangerous. More dangerous than any human walking this earth. So, Mr. Duggan, you get your board ready. Because as far as I'm concerned, you've had it.
All right, we are actually shown clips there of Duggan KOing Andre once again with that 2x4, as Bobby Heenan says no man can knock Andre out. It took a board being swung by a crazy man to drop Andre. Is Andre warning Duggan that he was stupid to issue a challenge to the 8th wonder of the world? Andre going to squeeze and squeeze, much like he promised to do with the Hulkster. Andre going to squeeze the life out of one Hacksaw Duggan. And then it's back to the ring feature match time. Listen to this one. Greg the Hammer Valentine taking on George the Animal Steele. And of course, in Greg's corner, manager Jimmy Hart. It is, even though it's the end of April, I guess we can say May sweeps about to begin, and thus we start the competitive action here on TV. And it starts like this: the Hammer and the Animal. As we get a little hoopla to begin the match. Imagine that. Valentine exiting the ring more than once to escape George Steele. But the Animal even whipping his shirt at referee Jack Kruger. Just very upset here with the Hammer stalling. But the action eventually going to get going when Steele yanking Greg into the ring by his hair. And there's a little back and forth here leading to Valentine taking over, going up to the top rope, Hammer leaping off, but he comes right down to a hard right hand from the Animal, and George Steele going to lay it in until Jimmy Hart up on the apron to distract. Steele then lays chase to the manager up the aisle, but the Hammer attacks Animal from behind in the aisleway, and then Greg Valentine running back to ringside, Steele following, but instead of climbing in the ring, George Steele going for a pair of steel chairs, whipping them in the ring instead. And in the meantime, George Steele counted out in this one. Greg Valentine going to go over before very much of anything can happen, though the match goes 2 minutes and 54 seconds. And George, not very happy with the referee's decision, going to chase Jack Kruger backstage as well. So, yeah, that match happened. As we've talked about, where does Greg Valentine's falling start? Well, remember, coming out of WrestleMania, he was scheduled to wrestle Ricky Steamboat on the house shows, but now we get the Hammer and the Animal on TV. So pay close attention, guys. We may be seeing the downfall of Greg Valentine sooner rather than later, but he's got a feud coming up, so we'll keep an eye on that. Right now, we go off to promos for the upcoming WWF Championship match. As part of Saturday night's main event, right now we're going to hear from the champion, the Macho Man Randy Savage, and also the other side. It's the challenger, One Man Gang, and its manager, Slick.
You know, this weekend, homeboy, we're going for all the marbles, Macho Man, the World Heavyweight Championship. And I know you haven't forgotten this face, you haven't forgotten this body, and you haven't forgotten the beating you received in WrestleMania 4. Remember, you never pinned his shoulders. 1, 2, 3, brother.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying out there, Elizabeth, that the one-man gang, the 747, walked on WrestleMania 4. Got by you, but they didn't pin you 1, 2, 3. Well, this weekend, World Wrestling Federation champion, Macho Man, yeah, we're gonna walk over you, yeah, and we're gonna get the 1, 2, 3, yeah.
So Slick stirring the gang, telling the Macho Man, you haven't forgotten the beating that you received at WrestleMania. And remember, Macho Man, you didn't pin the gang either. Remember, guys, that match was a DQ that allowed Savage to advance to the finals. So Macho Man does not have a fall over the gang. So credible challenger here is the 500-pound monster heading into the big NBC program later tonight. Savage, though, with the inspiration, Miss Elizabeth by his side, as Randy Savage sounds ready for the WrestleMania rematch later tonight. But right now, it's back to the ring for tag team champions Axe and Smash Demolition, with manager Mr. Fuji taking on the duo of Jose Luis Rivera and Scott Casey. As we get an insert promo here from Mr. Fuji, promising his Demolition will be tag team champions for a long, long time, boy-san. Well, he ain't wrong, guys, as it's just demolish and destroy on Rivera, just slaughtered by the champions here for the majority of the matchup. Finally, the Cowboy, Scott Casey, going to tag in, taking over on Smash, but gets caught in a crossbody attempt, Smash then turning it into a backbreaker, and Jesse names their finisher here. It's the Demolition Decapitation on Scott Casey. Going to give the Demos the win, 2 minutes and 48 seconds. And then it's back to Mean Gene Okerlund in the Event Center. This time we're going to hear from Bobby Heenan, his Islanders. We're also going to hear from the Anvil once again, Jim Neidhart. And wow, 2 promos in 1 episode of The Grenade here from Sam Houston.
All right, for the British Bulldogs and Coco Beware with Matilda in the corner, meet the Islanders and Bobby Heenan. Somewhere, somehow in the very near future, Bobby Heenan will not be permitted to wear any padded or protective clothing. That means he's going to be wide open for the wrath of Matilda. And the Islanders and Bobby Heenan don't care for that too much.
You know, Haku and Tom, I was just thinking something. It's going to be awful hard to have a match with them. They're not going to want to come in the ring. I mean, we hold 1 victory over them. WrestleMania 4, we wiped the mat with them. What are we going to do this time to them?
You know, Mr. Brain, what else we have to prove to the people? We beat them once.
We'll do it again.
You know something, Bobby? I'm going to make sure that Frankie and the Bulldogs keep their hand off of you. But let me tell you, punk, something. You're facing one of the baddest teams in the WWF, and that's Haku and Tama. Now make it three of us. And the Brain, Bulldogs, Coco, take a hike. Islanders, Heenan, number one.
You know, you talk about flying, Coco. You're going to be flying third row.
Yes, sir.
All right, the Islanders and Bobby Heenan soon to meet the British Bulldogs and Coco Beware. Jim the Anvil Neidhart, former World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champion, has big plans these days.
You know, back at the Hart Foundation, we do a lot of studying on our opponents. And I see that Sam Houston comes out to the ring with a hand jive. Hey! When you fight the Anvil, you better not do any dancing like that. Because those little skinny legs, those little skinny arms. I'm sorry, Sam. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry. It's going to have to be as bad as it's going to be.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. I'm not no stranger to the Hart Foundation. I've been around before. And Jim the Anvil Neidhart had a few things to say about me and my skinny arms and my skinny legs. Well, son, let me tell you something. I've got reach on you. That means I can whop you from way back here and you can't reach me. Now, my dad always told me something. He said, son, if you're going to whip a man, you can't do it running away. And I don't intend to be running away from nobody. And that includes you, Jim the Anvil Neidhart. You're big and you're bad, but son, you can be had. I ain't never found a horse I couldn't ride.
All right, can young Sam Houston thwart the plans of Jim the Anvil Neidhart, the former Oakland Raider football great, and of course, former World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champion?
So the Islanders, Bobby Heenan, still embroiled in that feud with the British Bulldogs and the Birdman, it would seem. Meanwhile, we heard the Anvil already talking trash upon the Animal, George Steele, and now he's mocking Sam Houston and his scrawny size compared to the likes of Jim Neidhart. And then from there, we actually hear from Sam Houston, a rebuttal to the Anvil, stating that he has the reach, and thus he feels he has the advantage. And he also states that there ain't never been a horse yet that he couldn't ride. Well, I got to say this much, Houston. I wouldn't refer to the Anvil as a horse, maybe a bull, and that's a whole nother story. As we come to a conclusion here on Superstars, we're going to hear from closing comments right now from the men involved in next week's feature match. It's going to be Hillbilly Jim taking on the Intercontinental Champion, the Honky Tonk Man.
Woo! Next week, the match of my entire life. I'm talking about that Honky Tonk Man. Back home in Mud Lick, Kentucky, we got a fancy name for that guy. He calls himself a fancy man, and that's what he is. Well, I'll tell you this, Honky Tonk Man. Where I come from, we don't take kindly to folks like you. It's time you got a little bit of what you've been preaching. A little bit of that down on medicine.
I'm getting tuned up for you, Hillbilly Jim. Next week, you want the Honky Tonk Man? You want the greatest intercontinental heavyweight champion of all time? Well, you can have all you want, because I'm like Grandma's salad pack. Anytime you want to mess with me, just jump in and grab some. I can't be beat. I won't be beat, and you're not going to beat me, Hillbilly.
Whoa, don't miss that next week. Hillbilly versus Honky Tonk right here on the Superstars of Wrestling.
Well, needless to say, this is Hillbilly's biggest match of his entire career, a shot at the Intercontinental Championship right here next week on Superstars. He says he's going to do his dogdest to make sure he takes that title home to Granny. Meanwhile, Honky Tonk Man, not backing down from the challenge of the Hillbilly, seems to be standing his ground, not running this time, is Honky Tonk. So this could be an interesting matchup as May sweeps will begin next week right here on Superstars. But for right now, we're off to the following day in the May 1st edition of Wrestling Challenge. New set of tapings, tape back April 22nd, Springfield, Massachusetts, at the Civic Center. It's Gorilla Monsoon, Bobby Heenan on commentary, and with this new set of tapings comes the debut of ring announcer Mike McGurk. We've heard her here a little bit doing some color commentary on some house shows like the Houston shows going back to the latter half of 1987. And of course, Mike McGurk, the daughter of one-time wrestler and promoter Leroy McGurk in the old Tri-States area, which would become the Cowboys Mid-South area later on. So Mike McGurk, she has a background in the professional wrestling business. She's even dated one or two of the boys, notably Ted DiBiase and Brian Blair prior to this. But she's here now as a ring announcer. She's going to stay that way, I believe, into the fall of 1993. So Mike McGurk going to be hanging around here on Wrestling Challenge for some time to come. And with Challenge also acting as the Saturday night's main event taping, taped both on the same night in the same arena, we do see the SNME banners flying high for this entire episode of TV. Very noticeable, guys, as we head off to the ring for Bam Bam Bigelow with manager Oliver Humperdinck taking on Iron Mike Sharp. Battle of the big men here. Jamie Ward would love this one, as we get an insert promo from the Doctor of Style Slick, who continues to push that Gang versus Bigelow feud. Meanwhile, in the ring, Bigelow delivering an awesome, amazing standing drop kick, as Mike Sharp going to reverse an Irish whip on the rebound, but he misses a charge in the corner, and Bigelow straight out to the apron for the old bombs away, the nuclear bomb as he calls it, slingshot splash back inside, giving the Bammer the win, 1 minute and 43 seconds. As we go off now to special report and Lord Alfred Hayes talking about that WrestleMania 6-man tag involving Bobby Heenan and the Birdman.
Hello everyone, this is Lord Alfred Hayes with special report. After reviewing the 6-man tag team match on WrestleMania 4, the World Wrestling Federation President, Mr. Jack Tunney, made a far-reaching decision regarding the so-called protective suit that Bobby Heenan wore into the ring. Here is Mr. Jack Tunney with his official declaration.
After WrestleMania 4, I've made the decision that whenever Bobby the Brain Heenan wrestles, he'll have to wear regulation wrestling gear the same as any other wrestler.
Tunney's decision pleased the British Bulldogs and Coco. There were some people who were not at all happy with his statement. In fact, one particular person was absolutely outraged.
That's real fair. That's real fair. I've got to get in the ring every time I wrestle now in proper boots and trunks. But there's going to be a rabid dog sitting out there, frothing at the mouth, trying to bite me, tear the flesh from my body, drag me around the ring, under the ring, out back. That's fine with you, though, Tiny. What protection do I have? None.
All right, so we go back. We see a clip from WrestleMania 4, Bobby Heenan wearing that attack dog suit. And then we hear from President Jack Tunney, who apparently has banned Heenan from wearing any future protective gear during his house show matches. And Bobby Heenan having to act irate over that announcement. Remember, in real life, Heenan absolutely hated wearing that dog suit, so I'm sure he was very happy with this announcement. But they're playing it up here on TV that Bobby Heenan essentially cheated. He used his brains to find a loophole at WrestleMania, find his way into that attack dog suit, and used it to his ability. And of course, a little help from the Islanders didn't hurt as he defeated Birdman Coco Beware. Well, in upcoming 6-man tag team rematches on the house shows, Heenan will have to wrestle normal wrestling gear. As we roll on with the show here, it's Intercontinental Champion Honky Tonk Man, Jimmy Hart in his corner, taking on Jose Luis Rivera. As Rivera early on going to reverse a hip toss and slam Honky Tonk down to the mat, and Honky Tonk Man immediately retreating to regroup on the outside, talking to his manager, the Colonel. And then once back inside, Jose Luis retains control, working over the IC champion's arm, but Jimmy Hart finally running distraction on the outside, allowing Honky to attack Rivera from behind, and eventually it is indeed the shake, rattle, and roll neckbreaker going to give Honky Tonk the win, 2 minutes and 2 seconds. Lots of offense here from Rivera, very little from Honky. Great heel stuff, getting the heel heat, using Jimmy Hart as a distraction to take over and lower the boom with the neckbreaker, as Honky Tonk will continue on. Next week, remember, Superstars and Hillbilly Jim. But for right now, we go off to Mean Gene Okerlund in the Event Center. We're going to hear from the tag team champions. It's Demolition. We'll also hear from the former champ Strikeforce and Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
All right, hi again, everybody. Gene Okerlund in the Event Center. Tremendous World Wrestling Federation action being talked about right now. One of the matches I'd certainly like to see is a title defense for these two men, Demolition, Axe and Smash. They're managed by Mr. Fuji against Strikeforce, the former tag team champions. Demolition certainly got something to say about it.
Strikeforce, I kind of like it when we hit you and you go down and get back up. But it gets a little hard after a while, doesn't it? It hurts a little bit. Will you come back? Because you're going to get a lot more.
You're coming after our property. You're coming after our money. You're coming after our championship belts. It's not going to be easy, fellas. Master Fuji says it's 100% full go, and that means war.
You know, when I see Demolition and Fuji walking around with the belts, proud as if they earned it, it makes me sick. But you know, we're not going to cry about it. We're going to do something about it, and we're coming after you Strikeforce way.
Demolition enjoys beating on our body. They laugh about the way they won the belts. They didn't cheat, they say. It doesn't make any difference to us because we're coming after you for one reason, Demolition, to get things evened up, baby, and we don't care what it takes to get our belts back. Strike Force!
All right, discussing that one with all parties concerned. Strike Force want to meet the Demolition, and they want him badly. Andre the Giant certainly would love to meet this man, Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Hacksaw was looking up 7'4", 7'5", looking around 500 pounds. But I stood my ground. I said what I had to say. And sure, you wrapped them big mitts around my throat, and you had me going. The lights were spinning, the crowd noise was echoing. But I knew, laying right down by my side was my 2x4, my equalizer. And once I got my hands on it, well, there's no man on the face of the earth could stand up to it. Because for the first time in history, timber, that big giant went down and Hacksaw Duggan stood tall.
I take a look at Hacksaw Jim Duggan. That's the man that had to take a pay cut at SMU to move on to the Atlanta Falcons in the National Football.
So we hear from the reigning tag team champions, Axe and Smash, the former champions, Tito Santana, Rick Martel. The title rematches will continue all across the house shows. Look forward to that one. Also, Hacksaw Duggan stepping right up to the plate in his feud with Andre the Giant. Tough guy. And then it's back to the ring for his very first singles match in a very long time anyway. And I'm talking about for a singles run here involving the Hitman Bret Hart battling Barry Horowitz. As we get a quick early assessment of Mike McGurk as a ring announcer by this point in the show. Same voice as we'll get accustomed to know, but she's very much faster here in delivering the lines, kind of rushing through the intros, announcing Bret simply as being from Calgary here. So from Calgary, Bret Hitman Hart. And it's kind of interesting to see how Mike McGurk will evolve pretty quickly. But the Hitman, now a singles. No Anvil, but also, noticeably, no Jimmy Hart. And that's kind of odd. Where is Jimmy? But the Hitman gets a good pop from the fans here, even though he's not completely a babyface yet. Remember what he did to Bad News. Barry Horowitz getting a lot thicker as well, kind of putting on some bulk, which even the brain notices on commentary. It's the Ico Pro, pal. You've got to want it. Insert promo from Bad News, who plans to land the Ghetto Blaster upside Bret Hart's marshmallow head. As Bret booting down Horowitz early in the matchup, landing the backbreaker, Barry going to bail out of the ring to regroup, and then back inside Horowitz, going to the eyes of the Hitman, but Bret going to take back over, inverted atomic drop, middle rope elbow drop, and a pile driver. Going to give Hart the win, 3 minutes and 47 seconds, as the Hitman very much tweening right now, crowd popping for him since he's feuding with the ultimate loner, Bad News Brown, but the full face turn hasn't happened yet. And I should also mention here, the announcers steered clear of mentioning anything about Jimmy Hart as we haven't gotten to that part in the story. But we're going to go on now. Mean Gene Okerlund back in the event center, going to get words from the outlaw Ron Bass, his current foe, the Junkyard Dog. We're also going to hear from the Mighty Hercules.
Yet I still vividly remember what transpired here 2-3 weeks ago in front of a national television audience in the World Wrestling Federation. Outlaw Ron Bass, I can't believe you would try take this country back into the dark ages. Junkyard Dog will not forget that incident, and I'm not so certain in days to come you won't either.
The time is drawing near, Mr. JYD. You think you're going to collect a reward, huh? Well, let me tell you something. There's never been a reward that collected on this big outlaw, and you know what? There never will be. Because if you think that you're just going to be mad enough, you think that you get in there and chop them old gums of yours and do that dance, and that's enough, well, it won't get it done. You got to come in there with both guns blazing, because that's what the outlaw does, and that's what I'll continue to do.
It's time for you to pay your dues, Ron Bass. From the Dog International Bank. And the dog you must trust. Because you owe this bank. You'll never in your life drag this dog again.
What a matchup that should be between the Junkyard Dog and Outlaw Ron Bass. Here's another one, the Ultimate Warrior, soon to be squaring off against the mighty Hercules.
You know, intimidation is very, very nice if you can get away with it. I don't know who you're trying to scare or push around. The average ham and egger and panty waist punk that walks the street probably is a little weary of you. Not
Warrior,
this man.
This time, there will be no unanswered questions. This time, there will be no doubts. This time, Warrior, you will have to answer my challenge. But this time, your defeat will be quick. It will be complete. Warrior, you know that I will prevail, and you know that you are mine, because deep in your mind, you know who is the strongest and the most powerful.
Oh my, the mighty Hercules, part of the Bobby Heenan family, meeting the Ultimate Warrior. Keep in mind, these two men collided head-on. Not a lot resolved in WrestleMania 4 on March the 27th. When they meet again...
So Dog and Bass cutting promos on their feud. JYD looking a little worse for wear here in this promo. Very sweaty. I'm not really sure what was going on with him. I don't even want to speculate. But clearly, visibly, really dealing with a case of the sweats was JYD for that promo. Meanwhile, we also heard from the mighty one, Hercules, continuing to vow his revenge against the Ultimate Warrior. As we go off now to the superstar Billy Graham, plugging the WWF ice cream bar. Billy Graham even being coaxed into eating one of those tasty treats. And then it's back to the ring. Oh man, here we go. Tag team action. We see the Job Guy team of Chris Duffy and Joe Milano. And standing across the ring, they are now referred to as Jacques and Ramon, the fabulous Rougeaus brothers. So make note of that, guys. Here we go.
Hi, this is Jacques and I'm Raymond. We're well, some people call us the fabulous Rougeaus. You know, Raymond, a lot of arenas where we go at about 15 or 20% of the building likes to boo us a little bit. But I think they're confusing us with Dino Bravo from Montreal. Well, we're from Montreal, but we love United States. There's no prejudice as far as the Rougeaus brothers go, right? Right.
So we get an insert promo there from the fabulous Rougeaus, who openly admit that they've noticed that there's been about 15 to 20% of the fans booing them when they wrestle. And they believe that's because they're from Montreal, like that no good evil Dino Bravo. But the fabulous Rougeaus is going to reassure everyone that they love America. Talk about gold. This new Rougeaus gimmick is it. We get a quick match here. Milano leaps up on Raymond's shoulders looking for a victory roll, but while he's up there, he has nowhere to go. So Jacques going to climb up to the top rope, and the Rougeaus deliver a nasty doomsday device. Eat your heart out, Road Warriors, damn near killing Milano. The Rougeaus going to score the win. I wrote simply awesome here. Match goes 1 minute and 33 seconds. And then post-match, well, this is unusual. Chris Duffy going to enter the ring. So he too eats a Le Bombe des Rougeaus. So the Rougeaus, a little insult to injury here, delivering a move post-match on their other opponent, hitting their typical finisher, the Rougeau bomb. So that's kind of interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on that, as the entire gimmick, so underrated here. I feel like people slept on the heel fabulous Rougeaus, but just continue to watch the story, guys. As we go off now to Craig DeGeorge, another soundbite lined up on the platform. Special interview time with the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and he's got with him his bodyguard, Virgil.
Mr. DiBiase, certainly things haven't gone your way these past few months. In fact, that's probably the understatement of the year. You haven't been able to buy the World Wrestling Federation Championship. You found that out from the president. And you certainly have yet to prove to anybody that you've been able to earn the championship.
Let me tell you something, little man, and all the rest of you penny-pinching peons here in this Coliseum, and all you penny-pinchers at home something. Up until now, I've had to deal with the bureaucracy of the World Wrestling Federation and the underhanded tactics of the President Jack Tunney, who was the first person to rob me of the World Wrestling Federation heavyweight title by conveniently changing the rules to accommodate Hulk Hogan. And secondly, you, Macho Man Randy Savage, oh yeah, you wear the belt. You wear the gold around your waist right now, but you're no champion. As far as I'm concerned, I was the champion, I am the champion, and I will be the World Wrestling Federation heavyweight champion. What's the driving force, Savage, behind you? What makes you tick? What makes you try to excel? Elizabeth? You fool. You pitiful fool. That's not enough. What makes the $1 Million Man excel? The same thing that makes all you people in this building excel or try to excel. The same thing that makes all you people at home try to excel. What is it? Right here. Money. That's right. And the $1 Million Man has got a lot of money, but I'm not happy with that. I want more money. I want all the money that I can get, and how am I going to get it? By becoming the World Wrestling Federation Heavyweight Champion. And remember something, I always get what I want. I've always gotten what I want sooner or later. And I will be the World Wrestling Federation Heavyweight Champion.
And if you watch the video, you can see Dibiase visibly upset. You can hear it in his voice, not walking out of WrestleMania 4 with the WWF Championship, but then he laughs at the thought of Randy Savage referring to Liz as his inspiration. Of course, Teddy's inspiration is his money. Lots and lots of money. And being champion means even more money for the $1 Million Man. And thus, Ted, he says he always gets what he wants. And he wants the WWF Gold. So Macho Man, beware. The $1 Million Man not done with Randy Savage just yet. As we continue on with Wrestling Challenge, we get a pair of matches from last week's Superstars, the April 23rd Superstars. We see Jake Roberts over Chris Curtis, Rick Rude over Jake Milliman, and the entire angle involving Cheryl Roberts replayed here on Wrestling Challenge. And what an angle it was. I can't blame them for putting that in as part of this week's edition of Challenge TV. As we close out this edition of Wrestling Challenge, got a couple more sound bites still, guys. First, it's off to the Event Center. Mean Gene Okerlund going to talk with the Ravishing One. And we're also going to hear from the other side of this new feud. We're also going to hear from the Snake Man.
All right, quite a rivalry, quite a feud that is developing here in the ranks of the World Wrestling Federation between Jake the Snake Roberts and a young man who just seems to flaunt it all the time. He does that old David Rose tune, huh? I'll tell you, he has turned out to be something else. I could only be talking about the Rude Awakening.
You know, the human animal never ceases to amaze me. How people can risk their life and limb fighting for nothing. See what I'm talking about, Jake the Snake, is you are nothing. And that bimbo you're hitched with is a bigger zero than you. Talking about Snake Lady.
That's right, Roberts. The bottom line is this. A woman's got to know her place. And if you're not man enough to let your woman know where her place is, I'll do it for you. How did it feel to watch me manhandle your woman? What did you think when I publicly run down you and your family? And last but not least, Jake, what was it like to know that there was nothing you could do about it?
Ravishing Rick Rude, I cannot believe some of the things that he is trying to pull these days in the World Wrestling Federation. I don't know when these gals, if there's a point where they become embarrassed. It seems it never happens, though. Jake the Snake Roberts, he doesn't care for Mr. Rude at all.
Why ain't you something special, huh? Big, tough guy, gonna snatch a girl out of the front row, snap her little arm, play a little game, huh? Well, you don't play no game with my stuff, man. You don't walk on my turf and expect a free ticket out. You see, Mr. Rude, what you found out that fateful night is you put yourself in a heap of trouble, my man, because you twisted one on me that I don't like being touched. I gotta have you. That's what I gotta have. And you know something else, Mr. Rude? You found out that you're not enough man for my woman. You found that out real quick, didn't you, huh? Well, I tell you something. Now you're gonna find out that you're not near enough man for me.
That is a match that certainly is going to happen, and it's going to happen here in the World Wrestling Federation. Ravishing Rick Rude meeting Jake the Snake Roberts. I think everybody knows what has happened between these two men. And, of course, the very modest Jake the Snake Roberts having to contend with some very flashy, flamboyant, and outrageous actions on the part of...
So Rick Rude promising to put Cheryl Roberts in her place if Jake can't control her. Meanwhile, the Snake responds, promising Rick that he will pay for putting his hands on his lovely wife, Cheryl. As this is the first time we hear from both guys after the incident from last week, but definitely won't be the last time we hear from the two. And not only are both Jake and Cheryl married in real life, but Rude and Jake now going to be married to each other on the road for a long time to come. So get ready, guys. The Snake and the Ravishing One just beginning. As we conclude this week's Wrestling Challenge, we talked about May sweeps. Well, next week on Challenge, we're going to see a pair of matches from Saturday night's main event. Next week on Challenge, they promised the Brutus Beefcake versus Danny Davis match. We also learned we're going to see Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus the Mighty Hercules. And right now we're going to go off to promos from both the Barber and Hacksaw.
I sure hope you can all join me next week when I meet Dangerous Danny Davis. Because you know what? After I cut all his hair off and he's cue ball Danny Davis, I'm sure he's not gonna be quite so dangerous.
Oh, Hercules and Anderson, you talk about being up on Mount Olympus throwing lightning bolts. Well, bull! Because next week, when you get in the ring with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, the only lightning bolts you're gonna see are when these grade A hands are hitting you up alongside the head. Tough guy. Oh!
Plenty of big, outstanding matchups. Beefcake against Davis, Duggan against Hercules, and a whole lot more. See y'all next week.
I'll be here.
All right, so both guys sound ready for their battles here this weekend. In BC, Saturday night's main event. It's Hacksaw and Hercules, the Barber and Dangerous Danny. And of course, we know the Macho Man going to defend his title against the one-man gang and so much more. And more on that at the end of this episode of The Grenade. But before we get there, guys, just one last piece of business to cover. It's another edition of Primetime Wrestling, now in the month of May 2nd, 1988, as always, hosted by Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan.
I'm Gorilla Monsoon.
And I'm your host, Bobby the Brain Heenan.
I think an apology is in order.
I'm sorry I have to sit here with him.
That's not the kind of apology I was referring to.
I know what you're referring to. And last week, for the benefit of you people that think I became inebriated or I couldn't handle what was going on here, it's not true. You see,
you were smashed.
No, I wasn't.
Oh. I thought
your
you were.
loyal co-host here, the Gorilla, Mickey'd me during a commercial break. That's never happened to me before, anything like that.
Were you on some kind of medication?
Well, I did have a
Well, then you shouldn't have been drinking the bubbly. What a lineup we've got for you here this week on Primetime Wrestling. Our feature, of course, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, taking on Brudai.
I don't appreciate you leaving me till 4 a.m. out in the lobby on the couch.
You're lucky I didn't leave you in the back of the pickup truck. But you had a good time, though, Brain. I don't know whether you could survive another anniversary, but incidentally, I've made a few calls, and the new set is,
I was going to ask you, where's
at
the
this
set?
particular point in time, being constructed even as we speak.
Well, you got some guy on 42nd and Broadway doing it?
No, but
I think better be decent.
It'll be nice. You're gonna really enjoy it. You're gonna love it. You got a nice telephone and everything, one that works.
Oh, good. That means something sharp can come out and go right in my ear.
Wouldn't surprise me. Opening matchup is a classic. George the Animal Steele, still probably the most dangerous man in pro wrestling today,
That's right.
taking on the Hammer. Let's go to ringside.
So Gorilla says, we open up the show, it's time for the Brain to apologize for his behavior last week, obviously. But Bobby claims he wasn't smashed. He got Mickey'd by Gorilla Monsoon during a commercial break. Oh, the thought of that. Bobby had promised a new primetime set last week as well, so says the Gorilla. But Monsoon has it on good authority that a new one is indeed being constructed, and it will be here very soon. So clearly the new set wasn't ready in time as Heenan had promised it. But it is coming, guys, very soon. I do promise you. Here, I believe, in the month of May. As we continue on, a couple more sound bites here this week on The Grenade. Up next, we talk about Andre the Giant and his mindset following being knocked out from one Hacksaw.
Well, he's dangerous even when he's not mad.
Andre?
Yeah.
You bet. Now that he's mad, now that he's embarrassed.
Humiliation was the word that came to mind.
Oh, there was no pain involved. The man was knocked out. You can't hurt Andre the Giant. He was just lucky.
For him to be laying down on the canvas, Brain, unconscious, not physically, but otherwise, he was hurt. True or false? Guy's not sleeping too well at night, admit it.
Yeah, but he's
yeah.
Well, so Bobby and Gorilla admitting that Andre the Giant is dangerous when he's mad. Hell, he's dangerous even when he's not mad, but even more so now as Hacksaw Jim Duggan could be in a world of trouble. We're going to conclude this edition of Primetime Wrestling. One more soundbite, and we haven't seen the last of Rick Rude and Jake Roberts by any stretch of the imagination. I've already mentioned that. But this time we're coming out of the segment. They replay it here. It's so good they had to show it twice on Primetime this week. It's Rick Rude making a huge mistake, putting his hands on Cheryl Roberts.
We certainly haven't seen or heard the last of that, Brain. You guys made a big mistake.
No, she made the mistake. You see something, Toots? If you'd have planted that big one on him like you wanted to, you'd have kept your husband from having a very, very severe beating he's going to have. Comes out of that dressing room to save her. I bet he's done that a lot in his life.
You know, you're a real glutton for punishment, Brain.
Me?
You let Matilda get to you. You let Frankie get to you. Now you're looking for Damien to get to you. You haven't had the snake wrapped around your neck yet, have you?
Are you kidding? If he'd come here with
Yeah,
that snake,
you having trouble?
I'd tie that thing in a knot.
You would, huh?
It'd look like a lampshade, one of those sash cords.
You
on a
could be
window.
lunch for June for Damien. I got news for you.
For June.
So Bobby Heenan stating that you made the mistake, Toots. You should have just kissed Ravishing Rick, saved his husband a beating of a lifetime. Gorilla Monsoon stating that, well, first it was Matilda, then it was Frankie, and now it's going to be Damien for the Brain. Bobby responding, he'll tie that snake into a knot if it comes near him. But Bobby Heenan adding some fun conversation, and no doubt it's going to continue on week after week here as part of Primetime Wrestling. Heenan now getting to defend Andre and Rick Rude every week on TV. Going to be gold, no doubt about it. As we conclude this edition of Primetime Wrestling, got a couple of exclusive matches. Taped April 21st in New Haven, Connecticut, a squash match featuring Ken Patera over Paul Sarantini. With the full Nelson, match goes 3.5 minutes, but also a very rare pinfall loss from the Barber here on television, as it's $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase with bodyguard Virgil pinning Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Match goes about 7.5 minutes. Virgil going to trip the Barber up from outside, distracting him, allowing DiBiase to roll him up from behind, grabbing a handful of tights for extra leverage, and stealing the pinfall victory over the Barber. And then post-match, Beefcake going to make a comeback, attacking DiBiase, preparing to cut that $1 million hair, but it's Virgil pulling Ted DiBiase out to safety before the damage can be done. So Brudai taking an L here, which is very rare for WWF TV. But that's going to wrap it up here this week, guys. 2 more weeks of WWF 1988 in the books, closing out the month of April. We're already into the month of May here, early May, in WWF television, concluding with prime time for May 2nd. Now, next week, we will go back to the weekend here and take a look in depth at the WWF's Saturday Night's main event for the end of April in 1988. But think about it, guys. We're already a month removed from WrestleMania, just like that. Wow. And of course, the month of May next on the horizon. Can't wait to see what transpires there. Lots of great house show matches to discuss. Lots of great TV upcoming as the summer is upon us and all of the big names headed our way. We just saw Mike McGurk make her ring announcer debut. But in the month of May, we're going to see the debut of the likes of, well, one Sean Mooney will enter the event center. We also know Brother Love right around the corner. Can't wait for those sound bites. Of course, Big Boss Man not too far out. The Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, going to be given another chance here. And so many other big stars headed our way in short fashion. So stay tuned, guys. It's going to be a wild and awesome summer of 1988 in the World Wrestling Federation. But for right now, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Remember, Saturday night's main event next week. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, originally scheduled to take on the King Harley Race, his former foe, but we know Harley now out with that intestines removal and surgery. Harley not going to be back until the fall of 1988, so it's Hacksaw taking on the mighty Hercules. Also, Danny Davis looking to avenge his manager Jimmy Hart, going one-on-one with the Barber, Brutus Beefcake, and the Macho Man, defending his undisputed WWF Championship against the one-man gang, the man that Savage did not beat by pinfall during the tournament at WrestleMania 4. But that's not all. Also part of Saturday night's main event, another WrestleMania 4 tournament rematch. The Rock Don Morocco, who came ever so close to defeating the $1 Million Man, gets another shot. It's Ted DiBiase going one-on-one with Morocco as part of the big NBC program. Also, we've seen the feud escalate here on Primetime. I'm talking about the 2-week-long story arc between Rick Rude and Coco Beware. Maybe they'll wrap that up as part of the big show. And, wow, tag team champions Demolition, not hiding from anyone. They're going to defend their championship against the former champions, not Strikeforce, but rather the British Bulldogs. Going to go toe-to-toe with the tag team champions Axe and Smash. Can't wait for that. 6 big matches as part of next week's edition of Saturday night's main event. So stay tuned for that, guys. But for right now, we're going to finish up the show here this week And just another quick reminder to stop on over to WrestleCopia.com. Check out all of the great podcasts here, including the up-and-coming Retro Wrestling Review Show with host Gene Jackson and just a slew of co-hosts and special guests. Gene going to go back in time and cover, well, right now he's going into the old USWA vault. Going to talk about the year of 1993. And if you go back on the Grenade, you can go back to the WWF 93 project and listen to the top of a lot of those shows as I covered the entire crossover between the WWF and USWA feud down in Memphis. But Gene going to do it much more justice, going to do it in long form. Go check that out. All part of WrestleCopia.com. Plenty other podcasts to check out as well. And of course, all of that available on all of your favorite podcast streaming platforms as well. Don't forget to follow me on X, formerly Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. Follow and like me, Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. And subscribe to YouTube.com/Wrestling Grenade. And last but certainly not least, I'm asking you guys to give it a try, the $5 all access tier. And of course, another tier coming very soon. So stay tuned for that. But right now, talking about $5 all access over at patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That address again, patreon.com/WrestleCopia. So many gifts for just $5, and we can really use your support to continue to help pay the bills to keep all of the great podcasts here up and running as part of the WrestleCopia brand. But for now, it's time to say goodbye. We'll be back next week with Saturday night's main event, guys. So stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, this is Ray Russell saying from pillar to post and coast to coast, you pull the pin and I'll pick up the pieces right here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade. I'll see you next week. Don't miss it. Be there!
Wait a minute, that's somebody's wife? Whose wife is that,
this
McMahon?
big, bad, professional wrestler be, baby cakes?
Jake the Snake Roberts.
Whoa, my goodness! I can't believe it. You're telling me out of this whole crowd, who picks Jake the Snake Roberts' wife?